At least we got talking it down. I can't stand talking topics. There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Where did I learn? Welcome to Rock and Recovery. My name's Jay, your host. Today's special guest is Kym. I'm going to probably butcher this, Hinchey.
No, you said it exactly right.
Oh,
Hinchey.
wow. I'm getting better at this name pronouncing thing. I couldn't say topics earlier. My tongue's working today a little bit. And Kym's here to explain, to normalize grief, the grief process, the grief everything. Just make it part of conversation now. So, Kym,
Yes.
why don't you tell us who you are and a little bit about you, and we'll just go from there.
All right. I am Kym Hinchey, and I am a full-time grief educator, which is a title that not many people understand, but it's in the title. I educate people about grief. And I came to this work after the death of my son, Adrian, who died of an overdose after many, many years of addiction, active addiction and recovery, back and forth. And then his father, my husband, died 3 months later. So my world was destroyed is an understatement. It was exploded. And everything that I cared about was gone. Well, not everything. I had living family, but as probably a lot of your listeners will understand, a lot of my energy and attention for most of Adrian's adult life was helping him and his battle with addiction. And then that was over. And the worst thing that I had always hoped to avoid did happen. And I was completely unprepared for it. And I looked for help because I desperately needed help. And the first therapist that I went to talked to me for about 30 minutes about substance use, which I didn't need to be talked to about that. I did not. I knew about substance use. I'd been living next to it since my son was 15. And the second person that I went to for help told me I should volunteer. And I literally could not even take a shower. I couldn't find my way to the front door. I was in a fog of disbelief and agony. There was no way that I was going to be able to volunteer. And then the third therapist that I went to asked me about my diet and exercise. And it was all so surreal because I needed help. I needed somebody to tell me I wasn't going crazy and to tell me if I was always going to feel this way. So I became what I needed then. I became a grief educator and coach, and now that's what I do. Yeah, full time.
So what were some of the steps that you used to get over your own traumatic grief experience, I should say?
Well, I'll tell you first that you don't get over it. There's no getting over it. There is evolving and allowing it to become part of your life with the eventual goal of feeling less pain and more love with each memory. And it is an integration process. But there is no getting over grief. And that's the first part of normalizing it, is making people understand if you have been in grief for 2 years, 3 years, and you're still feeling it daily, you're still thinking about them all the time, you're still processing things all the time, you're still rerunning things through your head, the what ifs and the if onlys and the I should haves and could haves, that's normal. And I don't think anybody understands that until they're in it. And then they're looking around going, wow, everybody expects me to be better by now, and I'm not. So now I'm just learning how to fake the hell out of every single day, right? Yeah.
Is there supposed to be a set timeline for grief, or is it just a natural progression?
Well, it is a natural progression. I'll answer that part first. It is natural. It's as natural and organic a process as anything else. When you break a bone, it heals. You don't have to think about how to heal it. It will happen. But there's ways that we can help that. We're not running on the broken leg, right? We're not hitting it with a hammer every single day. And so if you allow grief to unfold naturally, then it's going to do it naturally because it is a natural human organic process. But we get in the way, and our culture gets in the way, and our beliefs about grief, which are generally wrong, get in the way. So is there a timeline? It's different for everybody. And I know that's kind of a
Cliche term, but it's true.
it's true. It's true. Grief is as individual as each relationship, and even in the same family, the way that I grieved my son was different than the way my husband was grieving my son, or the way his brother was grieving him. It's different. So it's individual to the relationship and the history and all the things. And so and the person who's grieving, you know, how are they processing it? Are they processing it, or are they running away from it? So there's a
What are
lot.
some of the steps that we can take to, I don't want to say speed up the process, but make it less difficult?
Well, this is something that people really find hard to sit with, but it is real. You have to feel it. And I think that it's a normal human reaction, right? We run away from pain. We don't want to feel pain. If there's a bee that lands on your arm, you're going to try to get away from it. It's an instinct. But and this is a cliche term also, but cliches become cliches because there's truth in them. We say them over and over because there's truth in them. And you have to feel it to heal it. You do have to. And so the more you push that down and ignore it and try to stay busy, or try to hide it under work, or using some kind of substance, or anything, any avoidance techniques that we do to avoid feeling that pain, it actually doesn't serve us, because grief waits. It waits. And if anybody is listening to this and they are experiencing grief, they know that's true. It waits until you're alone. It waits until you're not thinking. It waits until you're not busy. And then whoop, there it is. There it is
So
again.
a lot of people know my story of why I got sober, and what people don't realize is one of the main reasons I got sober, besides me finding my wife unalive, hanging in my closet, is I didn't want to forget her, with
Yeah.
substances. So I didn't want to forget all the good times, even the bad times, but mainly all the good times. And I knew that if I chose to continue down the path I was on, an addict, as an addict, then I would not only forget her, but I would forget myself even more. I would have no reason. I would have had no reason to be around, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I got sober so I could feel the feels, honestly.
Feel it. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What's her name?
Brittany.
Brittany.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brittany. I love that
Yeah.
name.
It's a good name. It was a good name. Still
Yeah.
is.
I think it's important to talk about them. And as you've probably discovered, you have this outlet and you're able to speak about Brittany here, but we don't normally have that, right? After a certain amount of time, people's patience ends with talking about our loved ones who's died. It's like they just stop. They stop talking about them. They erase them from. And all I wanted to do was talk about my dead people. That's all I wanted to do. They
Right,
were on
because
my
that's what
mind
our
the
lives
time.
revolved around that. That was part of
Yes.
our life.
Yeah. And suddenly nobody's mentioning their names anymore. Um, Much more so my son. And I think that was because he was an addict. And so there's all the stigma, like we were talking about before. There's all the stigma that goes along with that. So people were uncomfortable talking about him and how he died, because that's the underlined, how did they die? Um, and so that's why I named my business after him. My business is named Adrian Grief Support, because I wanted to see his name. I wanted to hear people say his name. I wanted him to no longer be erased from the world, but constantly, constantly something that people said. And I wanted him to represent, some kind of hope for healing. after devastation. So that's why I named my business after him.
So how do we start normalizing grief in the conversation?
Well, this is step one, talking about it instead of avoiding it, because we have kind of a toxic positivity in our culture that is like, look on the sunny side, always look for the bright side. There's always a silver lining. I've had people literally say to me, well, everything happens for a reason. I was like, no, no, that is not, no, my son and my husband did not die for a reason. But that's the knee-jerk response. That's how people talk about it, right? This is what has to change. And so talking about it and normalizing the fact that it lasts much, much longer than people think it does. There is no neat little door that you close and you're like, okay, done. Now I can move on. That years later, you're still thinking about your person. You're still missing them. They're still part of your life. That's another part of normalizing it, is that we don't leave them behind us. We bring them with us. And that's normal. So my entire thing is telling people it's normal. What you're feeling is normal. You're not weird. You're not stuck. You're not failing somehow at grief. This is normal. This is what grief looks like. I think that's really, really important.
So I know it's that cliche term, everything does happen for a reason. Do you think you'd be doing what you did now if it wasn't for you having to suffer what you did?
Nope, absolutely not. Does it make it worth it? No.
No.
And yeah, I talk about that. We get, as we progress through grief or any kind of traumatic healing, we do get something that I consider it's like the gold, right? I have a tattoo on my arm that has a dragon and it says, face the dragon, get the gold. Does that mean I wanted to face the dragon? No. Does that mean that I wouldn't go back in a half of a heartbeat and never see the dragon and never touch the gold? No. A broken bone heals, whether you want it to or not. It's not what has happened to me is not because my son and my husband died. It's what I did afterwards. So it's like the healing of that broken bone. And I came to a conclusion one day that sitting in my misery and pain and kind of recycling through it over and over and over again would be like, and refusing the things that I saw coming out in me, which were deeper compassion, more empathy for people. I was stronger. Yeah, but in different ways. If I ignored all of those things, it'd be just like re-breaking my leg. What's the point? What's the point? So the gold does come from the pain and the confrontation with the dragon. But it's a result of it. And it's bitterly won, right? It's so hard to get it. And so am I going to discard it? No, I'm not going to. I'm going to try to help other people with it.
So why do you think we're so uncomfortable talking about grief? I know we went over it briefly, but why do you think it's such a hard and such a painful topic?
Well, it's what we fear, right? Everybody's afraid, not just of dying, but I don't know about you, but my loved one's dying. That's the greatest fear, right? So we don't like to look at things that we're afraid of. And I don't think that our culture tells us the truth about grief. We were talking a little bit before about, the 5 stages and how they don't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one stage with roller coasters, ups and downs.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, and then when someone looks at someone in grief, say someone looks at Jay and says, it's been this long. You should be better by now. Even if they're not saying it to your face, right? They're thinking it. Still? And that really...
Or if you get over it too soon. There's that. It goes both ways. If you get over it too soon, they're thinking, oh, you really didn't love the person or you didn't really care. But if it takes too long, why are you still doing it? They've been gone for so long. It's just...
Yeah. You can't win.
Unnatural. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Either way.
You can't win. And so some days are going to be easier than others. And some days you're going to smile and you're going to be able to laugh. And that is also normal in grief. And then here comes a new grief wave. And you probably know what I'm talking about when I say the word grief wave. Here it comes again. And people don't see what's going on inside. And we really learn to fake it, just to fake it so that we can just get through each day. And so and like you said, we don't want to appear like we're too okay, because then what does that mean? We didn't love them enough. So we've learned to just put on this perfect grieving mask. And that's what it is. It's a mask. It's fake. It's not real. But because we all wear them, that's what people think grief is. It's that mask. Oh, well, that's what grief looks like. Well, no, it's not, because you don't see what it's like when that person gets home, when that mask comes off, when they're crying alone at 2:00 in the morning and going over the list again, the 100,000 what if, coulda, shoulda, wouldas. You don't see that
picture that reminded you of something, or the flower, or the area you were at that might have reminded you of something, and you can't just cry in public because, oh no, why is this person crying? Are you okay? Are you okay? I hate those words. I hate those words, and I'm sorry for your loss. Like I was telling you earlier, I hate that word. I'm sorry for your loss. And the one you said, just let me know if there's anything I can do for you.
I call that a check that cannot be cashed, right?
Yeah.
They're writing it to make themselves feel better. But when you really look at it, what it's saying is, you want me to think of something you can do to make me feel better. And I already can't even think of anything. You're now giving me another task.
It's you're wanting me to think, first of all.
Yeah. It's the worst possible thing you could say to someone. Yeah, let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Well, I can tell you this, I absolutely will not, because I don't know what to do for me. So how can I tell you what to do for me? And like you said,
those are probably the people on the short list of not talking to anymore anyway, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think we have to give people a certain amount of grace. I've learned this because our loss, our grief, Brittany's loss, doesn't impact that person the way it did you. They don't live inside of it the way that we do. So we have to kind of think about it and try to see it. Are they trying to hurt us? Are they saying something that's trying to hurt us? No, nobody wants to hurt a grieving person. Nobody wants to. They just don't know what to say. They just have no idea. Because we don't teach this. We don't normalize grief. We don't talk about it. And sometimes the most important thing that you can say to somebody is, tell me about them. Tell me a memory. Tell me what Brittany was like. What was her favorite flower? What did that make you feel like? Because I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. We want to talk about them. But the opportunities to do so become fewer and fewer and fewer.
So what are some of the things that you would say to start a conversation?
I would say
we just went over it.
Yeah. Tell me about her. What was she like? What was she like? And then if you're the person listening, listen. Mm-hmm. Really appreciate that person is still as vividly part of the griever's life as they were before they left the world physically. They're still part of their life constantly. If anything, I think what's really surprising to people in grief is that suddenly you're thinking about them even more than you did sometimes when they were alive. Everything. You're looking at the sunset and thinking, instead of just going, oh, it's so beautiful, you're thinking, oh, I wish she was here to watch it with me.
And that's what I found. Everything. I found that, just the smallest things would remind me of something that she would have enjoyed.
Yes, absolutely. And so being able to say that to somebody, if you're in a group and then you're like, wow, Brittany would have really loved the sunset. Instead of those people in the group going, ooh, and changing the subject and getting really uncomfortable. Because that's what they do.
Absolutely.
Going, oh, yeah, she would have. Yeah, wow, you're right. Making her part of the conversation. I think that a lot of times people don't want to talk about those who have died because they're afraid of upsetting us or reminding us, which is so silly because We don't forget, not for a second. And they're not going to remind us. It's there all the time. But letting us talk about our people who have died and being receptive. One of the sweetest things somebody did for me after Adrian died, she didn't even know him. She'd met him maybe once. But she said to me, "Do you want me to tell you what I remember you saying about him?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And she told me every memory that she had of what I'd told her about what he was doing and what he was like. And it was a gift. It was a beautiful, beautiful gift, not only because she was sharing that with me, but because she was talking about it so openly without worrying about hurting me or, being so
Worrying about,
careful. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Just making it normal.
So why do you think some types of loss are worse than others when it comes down to
Mm.
it? Why do you think we got such a stigma and such a judgmental view towards certain deaths and then not?
Well, because of the stigma. I think we should talk about what we were talking about before, about the difference between someone who,
Overdose.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I was, as I was saying to you before we started recording, I often wished that Adrian had cancer after he died, which sounds terrible because I've had people who died from cancer and it is awful. It's not in any way discounting it, but the way that they're viewed, right? The way the family is viewed for supporting them
They
and
don't view it as much of a loss.
yeah, yeah. And it's a struggle. They're battling it. They're fighting. When they go into remission, it's a celebration. Yay! They ring a bell. And when someone who has substance use disorder becomes sober, nobody's ringing a bell. Everybody's wondering when the relapse is going to happen. Yeah. So, and my son was in every way that you can call it a warrior. He fought constantly. He did not want to be an addict. That was not his goal for life. And his battle was just as real as a cancer patient's, but it's not seen that way by our culture. It's seen as something to not mention, something that's embarrassing, something that's.
Why do you think that is?
I don't think that we view substance use disorder or mental illness. Let me just put a big blanket
Yep.
term. We don't view mental illness the same way that we do physical illness. And I think that's changing gradually. Talking like you do here on this podcast, I think those are steps towards changing the way that people view mental illness and substance use disorder, which they go together. They're like peanut butter and jelly, right?
And
They
suicide
go
can
together.
be thrown in that mix too.
Yes. Well, suicide is a result of mental illness. It is. And it's all stigmatized because we don't look at it as a matter of health and well-being, but as a matter of willpower and choices. And that is, well, like I told you before, it really angered me. It really angered me. I don't have so much anger anymore, but I did in the beginning. I was like, my son was more than an addict. He was more than his addiction. He was so much more. He was an amazing, wonderful, one of the most brilliant and funny people I've ever known in my life. And then suddenly all that mattered was the manner of his death. And that infuriated me. It
Not how he lived
really
his
pissed me
life
off.
as
Yes.
a person struggling with mental health issues. And
Yes.
I'll say this to all the addicts out there and all the recovering addicts, and they'll know I'm talking the truth. Is addiction is a side effect of the things that we're going through, whether it be trauma, whether it be mental health, whether it be whatever else. Addiction's a side effect, and it affects so many of us.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you can be addicted to that you
Mm-hmm.
don't even realize it.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know what addiction is, try putting your cell phone down for 24 hours and not picking it back up.
That's good. Yeah, that's so true.
It
That's so
is.
insightful. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It also, we don't take into account the old wounds that all of us are living with. I mean, how many people in addiction or recovery can look back and know exactly where their addiction started. They usually can, but what's the uncovered old wound underneath that? That opened that door, that made it so that there was some kind of a relief. What was hurting inside, that addiction, that substance, that whatever, what was hurting underneath that gave relief to? I think for my son, the world was too loud. It was too much. He had too many questions. Nothing made sense to him. He was deeply sensitive, and the volume of the world was too loud for him. And when he discovered that he could use, well, I think it started probably with marijuana and then just kind of went from there. But he discovered, he discovered it turned it down. Everything wasn't blaring in his head. And I think that was a really sweet relief for him. And so it's something that maybe people don't understand because their volume, maybe their volume works. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you do. And I'm sure your listeners do.
Yeah.
To not have a working,
it's too much
volume.
Chaos. It's just the chaos of the outside, uncontrollable everything, the chaos of the world. And we can tune it out and narrow it down. I can't say tune it out. We can narrow it down to more into focus.
Yeah. He was always so introspective, even when he was a very young child. And he would ask me questions like, Mommy, why do the leaves turn pretty and then fall down? I mean, what toddler says that? Why does my heart beat fast when that dog barks at me? Why was that boy mean to me? Why did he say that? He had all these whys, and I did not have the answers for him. I think that was one of his great issues, was he had all these questions and there were no answers. Nothing made sense. And then there's that blaring volume.
Yeah.
And then when he was 14, his best friend died in a terrible accident. And it was after that he began actively using. So I could see that was the catalyst. But he always had the questions. He always had those before. He always had this.
Just curious about the world.
On? Yeah, what is going on? It didn't make sense to him. So the catalyst was his best friend dying. But the questions were the underlying wound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy that, that we put such a stigma on people, substance use disorder, whatever you want to call it. You can use a technical term, addict, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And all we're doing is trying to cope with things that we can't cope with.
Yeah.
That we don't have the tools or the equipment to cope with, like grief. I know so many people that because of grief, they tried coping it with alcohol, with drugs, whatever else worked. I mean, there's so many sex, whatever the case may be, that they became addicts. And now they associate that with a happy feeling, a feeling of normalcy to them. And just
normalcy.
Like
maybe it's not happy. Maybe it's just feeling normal.
Just normalcy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the way we got through the day. It's just normalcy, not society normalcy, just normal for us, unchaotic, I should say, more of a controlled, measured chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. And circling back to why is it a stigma? Because no one looks at it that way. They think of it as a choice.
And you're a second-class citizen if you're an addict. All of a sudden, you're a second-class citizen. It wasn't until recently that alcoholism became more and more of an addiction. Yes, there's addicts. Yes, there's people died from it all the time. But not until recently have people actually started realizing that alcoholism is a big disease because it's so normal.
Disease. Yes, it's a disease and it's normal. And you're absolutely right. I hope that our culture is pivoting towards seeing mental illness and addiction as an illness and not, but it's going to take time and work and conversation.
It started with actually labeling it as substance use disorder.
Yeah. That's why I
I
try
think that
really
was,
hard to say that. Yes, because
I,
it deserves to have a name because it's
yeah,
huge and it's impactful and it's an illness. No
yes.
one wants to do it. Nobody chooses it. And that's the infuriating part to me is the choice thing.
And the fight to actually stay alive while trying
Yeah.
not to kill yourself.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
uh, we know the risks, and trying to stay alive and not trying to do too much is
Right.
a fight for. It's a real fight. It's a
Yeah,
real fight.
absolutely. Yeah. And to go back to the comparison to cancer, um, if somebody in cancer goes into remission and they get the bell rung for them and everybody's so happy and the family is praised, and Adrian quit heroin cold turkey and I watched him do it, and
That's amazing.
it yeah, and he didn't die from it, but I'm pretty sure he felt like he was dying. It was and he said it was the hardest thing he ever did. Not one person said, "Good job." Not one person said, "That must have been so hard." Not one person said, "You're so brave." All of the things that they say to people who go through cancer treatment,
That's about
right?
time.
Yeah, yeah, it's about time. And or ignore it altogether and then whisper to me, "Is he using?" You know, it was just, and it infuriated me at the time. It was just really infuriating because it was so hard, and I watched him, and um, he was so sick and he was struggling, and it was so hard. I couldn't do anything for him. I mean, I could try. I could, you know, empty the bowl he was throwing up into, and hell, it was hell. It was literal hell that he was going through, and that was a battle. There's no other way to describe it than a battle. And that time he won. He won that battle, and but it was completely unremarked on by anybody. No, no praise, no nothing. Just it's about time.
I think that's one of the big reasons that addicts, all addicts across the board, yes, you've got your standouts, your exception to the rule, that all addicts are across the board are so supportive and so understanding and so loving and helpful. I really got to say, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah,
is because
absolutely.
we know the fight, we know the struggles, we know the feelings, we know the whys behind it, and
Yeah,
we've gone through it, and we understand that the only people that really were there, fully there to support us, that knew what we were going through, was another addict.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
We can explain it to so many people. You can watch us go through it. You can do all this, but until you actually experienced it and gone through it, you really don't. I can't explain it. It's just something.
Yeah,
I'll never be a doctor, and I know what doctors do, but I still can't explain how they do it.
yeah.
You know, it's just incredible.
And Jay, what you just described is grief. It's everything you said is exactly the same about grief. You can explain it to people and you can try to describe it, and until they experience it, they're not going to know what you're talking about. Only other people who have gone through it. And it does make you kinder and more compassionate and more loving because you've gone through the worst possible experience that you could ever go through. And none of us want somebody else to experience it.
No, it
But it's,
sucks.
yeah, yeah.
I'll put it plain and simple. It sucks.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's one of my favorite hashtags. Grief sucks because it
Yeah,
does.
yeah,
It sucks. It sucks on a level that it sucks on a level that you can't even imagine until you're in
yeah.
it.
It's.
Absolutely.
I
But
don't want
I would
anybody to be an
imagine,
addict either. I don't want
yeah,
anybody to have
yep,
to go through the shit that I've
no,
gone through.
no, exactly.
It sucks.
Yeah. I think probably most of your listeners know somebody who's died
Yeah.
because um, substance use disorder and the lifestyle that accompanies it is high risk. It is. My son's girlfriend died um, when he was 19 of an overdose.
Mm.
It was what got him into treatment the first time because she died. And
Yeah.
um, I don't even know how many of his friends died after that. I don't have a number. And that's really sad because that says how frequent it was. And with the fentanyl epidemic,
That's not even an overdose. That's a straight poisoning because you're not getting what you think you're getting.
yes,
That's
and that's what happened
straight.
to my son. That's what happened to my son. It was during the pandemic and everything was locked down and he couldn't work and he couldn't go to school and he was living in our basement like a cliche, right? The guy living in his parents' basement, and he relapsed and he got something that he thought he knew what he was getting and it wasn't what he thought he was getting, and he died.
Yeah.
And so many more people. I belong to a lot of like parents of children who have died groups, and bereaved parents and stuff, and every single day there's another person joining because their loved one died or their child died from fentanyl poisoning. That's what I call it, fentanyl poisoning, because it is, like you said, it's
a
straight
straight
poison.
poison.
Yeah.
And now they've got this new stuff that's 100 times worse than fentanyl. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And I foresee a lot more problems, just because of it. And it literally is a systematic poisoning of the drug use,
Yeah.
of addicts
Yeah.
of that particular drug. Yeah. Of addicts. And everything that they can put it in. I'll be honest, everything that they can put it in.
Yeah.
And
Because
I
it
could go
makes it
on
more
and on about
potent and more
fentanyl.
addictive, and
Yeah, I
absolutely.
could go on and on about the fentanyl epidemic because it really is. It's not quite. It's getting bad, and I could go on and on about that topic, but I choose not to, because it's not the right place, not the right time. But I sure in the hell could, and I know let's say I'm in the grief process, or you are in the grief process, and we have somebody that hasn't been through that process. Or I haven't been through that process. I'm not going through that process, and I'm talking to somebody that is going through that process. What are the right words to open up a conversation? What are the things that we need to do to actually start and normalize that conversation?
Well, like we were talking about before, invite them to tell you about their person. Tell me about them. Tell me about them.
So more empathy instead of sympathy?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that empathy is really the word for it. And this is how I define the difference between empathy and sympathy. Empathy is when we feel what somebody else is feeling, and that is not always helpful. Okay. Especially in grief. And I get it. We go there because we want to empathize. We're loving, caring individuals, and we want to say, I know how you feel. But that is actually one of the worst things that you can say to somebody in grief. No, you don't know how they feel.
Okay.
Don't immediately go to how one time I felt this way, because grief is individual, like we were talking about it. And that's, it can feel really dismissive. If I have just lost my partner and you come and tell me, oh yeah, my dad died last year. I understand that you're trying to connect with me, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work because your dad and my partner are two different people. The relationships are different. Everything is individual. So instead saying, tell me about your partner. How are you feeling? How are you feeling today? How are you feeling today? Yeah. And listen, just listen. And silence is okay too, right? Silence is okay. I think we rush to fill silences because they make us uncomfortable. But some of the most valuable things people did for me when I was in grief was just sit there with me. And not say, what can I do for you? But actually, this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to the store. I'm going to pick up some groceries and drop them on your front porch. Is there anything in particular you need? I'm going to get a coffee. I'm going to leave one at your door. Texting people saying, I'm thinking about you, and you don't need to respond. That's it. Just reminding people that they're not forgotten, because it's also incredibly isolating. And I'm talking about after the funeral, right? After the funeral's over, after the lasagnas are eaten and the flowers have wilted, that's when grief gets really, really lonely.
Yeah.
Really lonely.
When you actually have to sit there by yourself
Yeah.
with your own thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. That's when it gets lonely.
And now I'm comfortable doing that. I used to hate it. I couldn't do
Mhm.
it, but now I prefer it, honestly, most times.
Yeah.
And I think one of the main points is we have to understand, as a person that's going through grief and a person that's, you know, might not be going through grief, you have to understand the other person is going to get angry.
Yes.
They're going to get angry and snap, and you might be the closest person that they're snapping at, but they're not mad at that person.
Yeah.
And you just got to be very understanding because, I did it. I'll first one guilty of it. I snapped at the
Mhm.
people I love and care about because of situations, and they would just piss me off. And all of a
Yep.
sudden, I'm snapping and at people just immediately that are close to me, and it's like,
Yeah.
mm, gotta go. I'm
Yep.
gonna go over here and do this thing, and
Oh,
then
me too. I was
but then I
angry.
had to come back and I'm like, y'all know I'm not mad at you. I'm sorry for
Mhm.
snapping. It's just a situation, and it makes you feel really bad when it happens after
Yeah.
you can think about it and after you get out of that instant anger. You know, then it's like,
Well,
son of a bitch.
anger is grief.
Yeah.
And that's something that we don't know or normalize. Anger is grief. That
Mhm.
is what your grief looked like that day. So you have a grief wave, and sometimes it looks like anger. Sometimes it comes off as really pissed off. And why not be angry? Of course you're angry. Of course. Who would not be angry? Losing their wife the way that you did and having to go through the trauma. And of course anger
Had to
comes up.
get sober and go through it at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, just absolutely. Of course, anger is one of the easiest emotions to go to. It's just easy.
It is the
So,
best one to get
yes,
people away from me.
yeah, absolutely. So, angry is part of grief. It is. And it doesn't show up the same way in everybody. I know some people who just have this simmering resentment and they're just resentful and bitter. And maybe they're not saying anything, but it's still the same thing. It's still the same face of grief. It's anger. It's anger at injustice and the unfairness of it all, and having to change your whole life and losing all the things that you thought you had for the rest of your life, and losing yourself, the version of you that you were before, because there's a before and there's an after, and they are not the same person. I know you know that. It's
Oh
not the
yeah.
same person. Yeah. I bear very little resemblance to the woman from before grief.
I
Very
might
little.
look the same, but I'm,
Yeah.
not the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going through it has taught me a lot of patience, honestly. It's
Yeah.
taught me that it's okay, first of all, and a lot of patience with myself, with other
Mhm.
people, and a whole lot more understanding too, you know,
Yeah.
with how other people very empathetic. you know,
Yeah.
I'll use that word because you become very aware of people's feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. You do. Yeah. I call that having grief eyes.
Grief
We
eyes.
suddenly see the cracks. Yeah, grief
Yeah.
breaks us open in a way, and then we are able to see the cracks in other people that weren't visible to us before. And some cracks are huge and very visible to anybody, right? You can look at them and go, "Oh, wow, we know what happened to you," and that crack is very visible. But when you have grief eyes, you start to see the cracks that nobody else does. The cracks, the way someone's smile is just slightly off, or the way they pause before they answer a question. You can feel it. You can feel it. Oh, yeah, yeah. There's something there that hurts. It does
Yeah.
deepen your compassion. It does. Yeah, you see that. But I think it's also important to take those grief eyes and turn them inward and see your
Hmm.
own inner stuff. See the things that are cracked inside of you, the things that deserve love and healing.
Self reflection.
We're, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we do it. We we do tend to, go outward and want to help others, but we need to take care of what's in here first, right? Our broken heart, all the things, well, what we were talking about earlier, the old wounds that have maybe never ever been given any kind of consideration or care.
Yeah.
All those questions, the unanswerable questions, those are all things that we kind of have to go in with self-reflection and treat with compassion and love, the same way that you would treat them in somebody else. And when somebody's gone through addiction or someone's suffering from mental illness of any form, I think it's really hard to have self-compassion, because we buy into that worthless, no good, second class citizen, like you said, buy into all of that. Not worth it, not worth it. And
then those feelings still come up every once in a while
yeah,
when you're least expecting it.
yeah, and it's just not true. Every single person who dies from an overdose or suicide or anything like that, they're a person. We were talking about, right? Instead of how did they die? How did they live?
How they live.
How did they live? My son was brilliant. He was a bright and shining star. Yes, it was eclipsed sometimes by his addiction and by his behavior during those times. And that wasn't who he was. That was not who he was at his core. At his core, he was that inquisitive, curious boy who had all the questions and just didn't know how to turn down the volume. So I think it's really important to view ourselves with compassion, with the same compassion we would give others.
I think we do need to view ourselves with compassion and know what we expect out of others and how others are supposed to treat us, because once you start, if I look in the mirror a lot, now, and we'll say something in the mirror. And if I can say it to myself without, acting stupid or silly or whatever, if it actually, I can actually complete it, then it's worth talking about. I can understand it now. If I'm mad at somebody and I say it to myself before I tell them, and it sounds so ridiculous, it's like, what? Yeah. And I do that with others too. So I know how I want to be treated, and I expect others to not treat me any less than I know how I'm supposed to be treated.
Oh, I love that practice. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. I love it. And that's just so self-aware of you to do that.
Is. And I think going through both those things at the same time made me, I'm not going to say any different or special, but it made me more aware on boundaries. Really, it's a boundary issue, and we have a lot of those in addiction. Once you get out of addiction, once you're in recovery, you start setting boundaries. The same thing with grief. You can set boundaries. With boundaries with, I know this person's going to bring this up, and I really don't want to talk about it today. So guess what? Not going to happen.
Absolutely.
Or the other way around too. If you don't want to be around a person that's going to talk about it all the time, don't go there.
Yes.
So that way you don't have to make them feel bad.
Yeah. We need to have autonomy, right? Autonomy. Yeah. I belong to me, and I can make choices that are best for me. And then we have to do that. We have to make those choices that are best for us. And I will say it, your experiences do make you special, and they do make you different. They do. It's fact. It's just fact. It's not that you wanted them. It's not that you enjoyed them. This is the gold that you get when you face that dragon, right? It's nothing you wanted.
I'm just super humble these days, because I'm still here, basically.
Yeah, well, that's still, even that, the humility that you've gained is the gold that you've received through this struggle. And I think we need to acknowledge that stuff. I think we do. I think we need to, every win, every small win. Why not? Why not say this is a win?
We do, in addiction, we celebrate the small wins, the day, the week, the month, the whatever. Yes. So we celebrate small goals that we achieve. We celebrate the small wins. Same thing needs to happen in grief. We need to celebrate the smalls because, that means we made it through another day.
Yeah. And maybe that small is taking a shower that day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Maybe it's
doing the dishes.
Yes. Yeah. Doing the dishes. Eating something other than chips. Yeah. I ate Doritos.
I think I just got called out because I got chips right there.
Yeah, I just, well, that's okay. You take the wins and you take the not wins, and I don't call them losses though, because we
Yeah,
need all the encouragement that we can get when we're in grief. We do. And
absolutely.
then,
Yeah, 100%
okay, so
agree.
here's another thing, the laughter. And this is something
Mm.
that people find so surprising, but we have to laugh when we're in grief. And we develop like this sense of humor that can
Oh, I've got one of
pierce
those.
darkness. Yeah. But it's
Then my mom
necessary
is
to
in the chat
survival.
calling me out, making my bed.
It's just, we have to, because we've gone through such awful experiences. We have to, it's like the yin and the yang, right? If you go through the very worst, you have to be able to see the very best.
Mhm.
And in a way to that, a path to that is laughter. It's laughter. It's, I laugh. It's everything. I laugh at everything. Things
Everything.
that people think are inappropriate or offensive. Everything makes me laugh now.
Everything. Me
It's
too.
yeah,
Because you know what? I find it not, it might not be humorous, but I find it humorous, but it's also a coping mechanism. Laughter is a big coping mechanism
yeah,
because, people, you might laugh at the inappropriate things, but who cares? You're
yeah.
coping with it.
It's healing. It's healing. Laughter is a pathway to healing,
And
and
sometimes
it is,
laughing is
and it's
better
good
than
for
crying.
us. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you can make that choice between laughing and
Yeah,
crying, who's going to choose to cry?
right.
I'm going to laugh. Yeah, and
Absolutely.
but there's days I'm not going to be able to laugh. Those are the crying
Right.
days.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm going to choose laughter whenever I can.
So, last question I've got, probably not. Yeah, I think this is the last. If anybody's out there going through it, what's one message you want taken away from this?
What you're feeling is normal. You're not crazy. You're not going crazy. You're not stuck. You're not doing it wrong. You're not failing. What you're feeling is normal, even if it has been a period of time where everybody else thinks that you're over it and you're not, even if nobody else is talking about them, but they're still all you want to talk about, even if they are the first thing and the middle thing and the last thing that you think about, and nobody else is saying anything, that's normal. It's all normal. Because I think we need to understand that everything that we think we know about grief is wrong in our culture. It really is. So that's what I would want people to take away from this, is that what you are feeling is normal. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Even when you feel like you're absolutely going nuts, it's normal. And you're not the only one. So I would encourage them to try to find other grievers, other people who are experiencing the same thing, because being alone is really part of grief, being lonely, being isolated. And it's a very unique kind of isolation. So if you can find other people who are in grief, it's not that it makes it better, but it does make it
You
less
can be
alone.
alone with a group of people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it doesn't have to be in person, it can be online. My first grief groups that I
Absolutely.
found were online, and they saved my life. They literally saved my life. Not just because there were other people going through what I was going through, but because I could look at people who were further on the grief path and go, okay, I don't know
There's an
how
end to
I'm going to
it.
get there. I don't know
Yeah,
how, but they did it. And so I'm going to
yeah.
do what they did. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I like to send, is bring the message of hope. That's what this whole podcast is about. It's a
Yeah.
message of hope. And the acronym for hope, my acronym for hope is hold on, pain ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So that would be my message to people. What you feel is normal, and you won't always feel like this today. Because so many of my clients or other people that I know in grief are like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I just tell them, you won't always feel like this. I know you can't imagine how it's going to get better, but you won't always feel like this. I promise you. I am that person that's further down the path. I am the person going, come on, come on. You could do it. Just breathe. Just take one step after another. And there's another parallel, right, with sobriety. Just one day at a time. Just one breath at a time. Just today. Just keep
Just for
going.
today. Just for today.
Just keep going. Yeah. Yeah.
And what's your book and where can we get it?
Oh, my book is coming out on the 13th of December on Amazon.
All
And it
right.
is called Then and Now, The Evolution of Grief. And it's divided. Each chapter is divided into real journal entries from my early grief. I just took excerpts from my journal entries, and that's the then and the now, which is my perspective on it now from years later
Awesome.
and as a grief educator. So I think it'll help anybody, people who are in early grief and people who aren't in early grief. So,
Then and Now, The Evolution of Grief,
yep, that's right. Thanks for asking.
in Amazon.com.
Yep, Amazon. Look for Kym Hinchey.
13th of December. Get the dang book. Learn how to go through grief. I'm probably going to buy it just because it sounds like something I want to read. So get the book. I recommend her, if y'all listen or care to listen anyway. Yeah, but I think it's something that everybody needs to, even if you haven't gone through it, I think it's something that would benefit other people because everybody knows somebody that's going through it.
Yes, everybody knows somebody that's going through it. And you might not even know you know somebody who's going through it. Yeah.
So I think it could not only help the person that's grieving, but it helped others around them understand better.
Yes, absolutely. And that's how we make it normal. That's how we normalize grief. Yeah.
Well, Kym, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate taking time out of your day.
Thank you.
It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's Rockin' Recovery. Keep rocking your recovery. Talk to people. Open up. Hold on. The pain does end. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.